My business partner erased my name from our company, pitched our app as if I didn't exist, and smiled through every lie, until one hidden line of code I left behind exposed him in front of an entire conference hall. My name's Alex, I'm 28, and for most of my adult life I've been chasing one thing: to create something of my own. Not just working endless hours on someone else's dream, but building something real, something with my name on it. 2 years ago, I thought I finally had that chance. I was working as a mid-level software engineer in a mid-sized company, stable, boring, predictable. I kept sketching ideas in my notebook during breaks, concepts for apps that could actually solve problems instead of just recycling the same productivity tools we all hated. That's when my boss, Jordan, noticed me. Jordan was everything I wasn't. Loud, charismatic, endlessly confident. He wasn't particularly technical, but he could make people listen. He had this aura about him. When he walked into a room, everyone turned. And when he spoke, people believed him. One day, after a late shift, he spotted me coding on my personal laptop in the break room. "What are you working on?" he asked, sliding into the chair next to me like he already belonged there. I hesitated. Sharing ideas in tech is risky, but something about his curiosity felt genuine. So I showed him a rough sketch of what would later become our project, SyncSpace. His eyes lit up immediately. "This is genius. We should build this together." And just like that, I felt like someone finally saw me. For once, I wasn't just the quiet coder in the corner. I was someone with potential. So we made a pact. He'd handle the big picture stuff, the pitching, the networking. I'd build the product. The perfect balance, right? The first few months were magic. We stayed late at the office, working after hours when the building was quiet. I'd sit hunched over my laptop, typing until my wrists ached, while Jordan paced around with a whiteboard marker, brainstorming out loud, throwing ideas like darts. He wasn't technical, but he was motivating. Every time I doubted myself, he'd clap me on the shoulder and say, "We're going to make millions, Alex. Just wait. This is going to change everything." And I believed him. We came up with a name, a logo, even a basic prototype. Jordan talked his way into local startup meetups, dragging me along even when I wanted to stay home and debug code. He'd beam when people complimented our idea, always saying, "We're building something big." At first, I didn't mind that he did most of the talking. I was happy to let him shine if it meant the project would succeed. But slowly, cracks began to show. He started referring to SyncSpace as his project. At first, it was subtle. My app, my startup. I thought it was just careless wording, that he didn't mean it. But then I noticed he left my name off an email to a potential investor. When I asked him about it, he waved me off. "Don't worry, man. These guys only want to talk to one person. Too many names confuse them." I let it go. But something in my gut twisted. The late nights got later. I was pouring every ounce of myself into this app. Jordan, he was showing up less often. Meetings here, dinners there. Always networking. Meanwhile, I was debugging at 3 a.m., fighting server crashes, patching holes. And still, I told myself it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, this was our dream. Or so I thought. The shift from we to me wasn't immediate. It was a slow, creeping thing, like rot spreading through wood. At first, Jordan's posts on LinkedIn made me proud. He talked about how we were working on something revolutionary. But over time, the wording changed. "I'm excited to share what I've been building. My startup is tackling workplace inefficiency." No mention of me. Not even a vague "our." Just him. I tried to brush it off as ego. Jordan liked the spotlight. I hated it. Maybe that balance was fine. But then came the investor dinner. He invited me at the last minute, telling me to just show up without giving any details. When I arrived, I was underdressed compared to the suits at the table. Jordan barely introduced me. "This is Alex," he said with a smile that felt rehearsed. "He helps me with coding." Helps me with coding. The table chuckled politely, moving on to Jordan's grand vision speech, and I just sat there, staring at my glass of water, fighting the urge to get up and leave. I'd built every line of that prototype, every feature, every bug fix. And I was helping him? That night I couldn't sleep. My brain replayed the words over and over. Helps me with coding. Still, I convinced myself I was overreacting. Jordan was just bad at wording. Once the investors were serious, he'd correct things. Once we were official, my name would be there, right? That hope kept me going. But then I found the email. We'd applied to a well-known incubator program, a golden ticket for startups. Acceptance meant funding, mentorship, connections. Jordan told me we hadn't heard back yet. But one night, while debugging, I noticed a notification on our shared email account. It was a congratulatory acceptance letter. Only, it didn't congratulate us. Congratulated him. Listed as solo founder. My hands shook as I read it. Line after line, praising his vision. His leadership. Not a single mention of the countless nights I'd spent building what he was taking credit for. When I confronted him the next morning, he didn't even look guilty. He just shrugged. Alex, relax. Paperwork's messy. They only need one founder on record. It's just optics. Once funding comes in, we'll fix it. I wanted to scream. Instead, I muttered something weak like, fine, and went back to my desk. But inside, something snapped. From that moment on, I stopped seeing Jordan as a partner. I saw him as a ticking bomb, one I'd stupidly tied myself to. He stopped coming to late-night coding sessions. He'd check in maybe once a week, all smiles, asking, "How's my baby doing? You keeping her running?" His baby. Meanwhile, I was debugging until my eyes blurred. I stopped going out with friends. My girlfriend left me, saying I cared more about Jordan's dream than our relationship. And maybe she was right. Then came the conference announcement. Jordan landed us a presentation slot at one of the biggest tech expos in the country. Thousands of eyes. Investors, journalists, potential partners. It was the kind of exposure startups begged for. But when he forwarded me the event schedule, my name wasn't on it. The speaker? Jordan Carter. Solo. I confronted him again, this time furious. Why isn't my name there? He leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head, grinning like I was a child throwing a tantrum. Alex, don't make this a thing. One speaker is cleaner, easier. You don't even like public speaking. Let me handle it. You'll thank me later. Something in me broke. My chest burned with anger, but I forced a smile and nodded. Sure, Jordan. Whatever you say. That was the night I started planning my insurance. I copied our entire codebase onto a private server under my name. I took screenshots of every Slack message where he admitted I'd built the back end. I saved invoices, GitHub logs, even cloud receipts. And then, quietly, I slipped something into the app itself. On the About page, buried behind a double-click, appeared a line of text. Developed by Alex Rivera, 2021 to 2023. It wasn't sabotage. The app ran perfectly. But if anyone dug deep enough, the truth was there, undeniable. The week before the conference, Jordan strutted around like a king. He told everyone we were about to blow the industry away. He bragged about the investors already circling. He acted like we were unstoppable. But in my gut, I knew the storm was coming. The morning of the conference felt unreal. Thousands of people swarming the convention center, banners hanging from the ceiling, cameras flashing as startups set up glossy booths. I walked in with a badge that said simply team member. Jordan's? Founder and CEO. He wore a custom-fitted suit, hair slicked back, flashing that trademark smile like he owned the place. He spotted me lugging our equipment and clapped me on the back. Alex, buddy. Looking sharp. Just get the demo ready, all right? Leave the talking to me. I forced a grin. Yeah, sure. Leave the talking to you. Inside, my stomach churned. For hours, I sat at our booth, demoing SyncSpace to curious attendees while Jordan floated around like a celebrity. He shook hands, posed for photos, pitched his vision. I noticed how he never once used our names, never once gestured toward me. By the time our scheduled presentation arrived, I was simmering with rage. The auditorium was massive. Rows of seats filled with investors, journalists, tech enthusiasts. Bright spotlights lit the stage. And then there was Jordan, striding up with the confidence of a man who thought the world belonged to him. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, spreading his arms wide. "I'm proud to introduce you to SyncSpace, my creation, the future of workplace collaboration." The applause rang out, and I sat in the wings, jaw clenched, hands trembling. My creation. He clicked through slides I had designed. He demoed the prototype I had built. He answered questions with buzzwords he didn't even understand. And with every word, my chest burned hotter. Then came the moment. A journalist asked, "This is impressive. Who developed the back end? It's smoother than most startups we've seen." Jordan didn't even blink. That was me. I spent months perfecting the code. Something in me snapped. I didn't care about strategy, timing, optics. I stood up. "Really, Jordan?" I said loudly, my voice carrying through the auditorium. Heads turned. Cameras swiveled. Because last I checked, you can't even write a basic script without Googling it. A hush fell. Jordan froze, blinking into the lights. "Alex, sit down." "No." I cut him off, striding onto the stage. "These people deserve to know the truth. I built SyncSpace. Every line of code, every feature, every bug fix. And I can prove it." Gasps rippled through the audience. Jordan laughed nervously. "He's exaggerating, folks. We worked on this together." But I pulled out my phone, already connected to the projector. One tap, and the screen behind us flickered, not to his polished slides, but to the hidden about page inside the app. Developed by Alex Rivera, 2021 to 2023. And then, I opened the folder of receipts, timestamps of commits, Slack messages, GitHub logs, every single one with my name. The audience erupted. Journalists scribbled furiously. Investors exchanged looks. Jordan's smile crumbled. The presentation ended in chaos. Conference staff rushed in, whispering urgently. Journalists crowded me, peppering me with questions. Jordan tried to spin it, claiming it was miscommunication, that I was part of the team. But the evidence was undeniable. That night, my inbox exploded. Investors reached out not to him but to me. Developers messaged saying they wanted to join my team. People on Twitter were already trending hashtags like #SyncScam and #CreditTheCoder. Jordan, his LinkedIn went dark. His phone number stopped working. By the end of the week, rumors swirled that he'd been dropped from his consulting gigs. His reputation, torched. But it didn't stop there. The incubator program he'd lied on? They contacted me directly. After reviewing the evidence, they cut ties with Jordan entirely and offered me the founder spot he'd stolen. Felt surreal. For the first time, my name, not his, was in the headlines. Engineer exposes fake founder at tech conference. I wasn't invisible anymore. And yet, as the dust settled, I couldn't shake the mix of emotions. I'd won. But I'd lost 2 years of sleep, a relationship, and a piece of myself to get here. Jordan nearly stole not just my project, but my identity, my sense of worth. In the end, though, the truth stood. And when people asked me how it felt to expose him on stage, I just said this. It felt like taking back my life. The weeks after the conference were a blur. One day, I was just some burned-out developer living off instant noodles and broken promises. The next, I was suddenly the guy who exposed his boss live on stage. My inbox didn't stop buzzing. Recruiters sent offers. Investors wanted coffee meetings. Strangers wrote long emails about how they'd gone through the same thing. Being stepped on, erased, stolen from, and how my story gave them hope. For the first time in my life, people saw me. Not as the guy in the background. Not as Jordan's coder. Just me. But fame doesn't build products. So while Twitter raged about Jordan's meltdown, I quietly went back to doing what I loved. Building. Only this time on my own terms. I rebranded SyncSpace under a new name, starting fresh without the baggage. A couple of the engineers who had messaged me after the conference joined part-time, just because they believed in me. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. Meanwhile, Jordan's descent was brutal. Articles painted him as the poster child for stolen credit in tech. Former clients came forward, saying he'd taken shortcuts, exaggerated results, left others to clean up his messes. His network evaporated. By the end of the year, he was practically a ghost. I didn't revel in his downfall. Honestly, I felt pity. For all his talk of vision, he never built anything. He was addicted to the spotlight, and when it burned him, there was nothing left. But for me, life slowly rebuilt itself. I moved into a bigger apartment, not flashy, but comfortable. I even patched things up with some friends I'd ghosted during those endless coding nights. One of them asked if I ever regretted it all, the betrayal, the stress, the public drama. And I thought about it. Would I take back those sleepless nights, the heartbreak, the moment I thought I was nothing more than someone else's shadow? No, because without them, I wouldn't have learned the most important thing, the value of my own voice. Months later, at a smaller startup event, I was invited to speak. This time, my badge didn't say team member, it said founder. I walked onto that stage, nervous but proud, and told a room full of young developers the truth. Don't let anyone convince you your work doesn't matter. Don't let someone else steal your name. You don't have to shout the loudest. You just have to stand when it counts. The applause wasn't explosive like at the big conference. It was smaller, warmer, but it felt better than anything I'd ever experienced. Because this time, the story wasn't about Jordan, or revenge, or betrayal. It was about me finally owning the thing I'd always been too afraid to claim, my worth. And as I stepped off that stage, someone shook my hand and said, "You know, Alex, you're not just the coder anymore. You're the story." For once in my life, I believed them.